Help support the show by joining the Patreon or becoming a YouTube member. Also, hit that like button and subscribe if you want more Browns-focused content. All right, y'all. I've been reading the comments. I've been seeing the demand. I've been seeing people say, hey, Q, when you going to bring him on? I've seen people even suggest that there might be a problem between me and the homie. Ladies and gentlemen, G. Bush in the building. I guess the beef is over, right? Like this beef that we had.
I don't understand it. Like beef. I mean, what would we possibly have any issues over? We got back on the sticks. It was like, what's up, bro? I ain't seen you in a minute. What you been doing? Family good?
You know what it is? I think people see like you'll say something that I'm not like agreeing with on your channel or on UCSS, and they'll see me say something and think that like, oh, because we have a disagreement on who we could draft at quarter and what we could draft at 2. If you want to go quarterback at 2, what you should do. If you think Andrew Berry's good or not, that me and him beefing.
It's almost like seeing it in passing. It's like being in middle school. Like when you like, man, we used to be in elementary school in the same homeroom, but then you get to middle school, it'd be different. Like you be having to switch classes and stuff. And they be like, man, I ain't seen you, bro. Yeah, I know we only got the same schedule no more. But then you be in gym class and be like, yo, yeah, we right back. But nah, bro. I think what people, we were out of shape. I think we were out of shape. And what in terms of is we were out of shape in terms of what it means when draft season comes around and you don't have a quarterback, you have a bunch of needs. We've already been there where we've had our quarterback we've known who it is. And now when draft season comes around, we forgot that, yeah, you're going to have disagreements on a bunch of people, especially when you have a bunch of needs and opinions about a quarterback. So this is just par for the course. This is what we was doing all through the 2010s, right?
Yeah.
Like, this is easy.
Well, it's funny too, because I think people naturally understand that conflict is like gonna happen whenever you're trying to build towards a common goal and like in real life situations. But there's something about the internet that makes people love pitting against each other and making up like this like bloodbath of a feud or something behind the scenes. But yeah, we doing good, felt like that needs to be addressed. But anyways, G, you did bring up a great point, right? And this is something I've been bringing up too. The Browns are in a place they have not been in since 2017, which is we don't know who the starting quarterback is going to be week 1, right? 2018, well, even in 2018, right, we knew that Tyrod was definitely going to be the starter. We knew in 2019 that Baker was going to start all the way up until when we got Deshaun, and it was Jacoby, then Deshaun, right? We've known or felt like, hey, we're waiting for our quarterback to take that step and become the guy, right? Now we're back a step from that. And we're waiting for us to get a quarterback so we can get back to the part to where we're wondering if that dude's going to make that step to take us to the place that they want to be in. And I think that, like, whether people understood it or not at the time, there was a level of comfort that you had knowing that you were waiting to see what Deshaun Watson or Baker Mayfield was going to turn out to be versus being in the position where the Browns are, where it's like, well, it might be Joe Flacco, might be Kenny Pickett, might be somebody that we draft here. Doesn't mean that that's probably not a better place to be in than hoping that Deshaun Watson can figure it out for the 4th year in a row, right? Like that was a expensive train going nowhere, it seems. And now you're in this place where you're not burdened by the whole Watson thing, at least as far as like having to play him. But you do have to figure out what it is that you want to jump onto next and how it is that you want to figure out this quarterback question. And I would urge the Browns to exercise, I don't want to say patience, but really be intentional about what you're doing in the quarterback room, right? If you want to draft the quarterback at 2, I don't advise it, right? There's no world where I'm looking at these dudes and going, I want to take one of them at 2, right? That's not the world I'm at, from the research I've done on these guys. But if you're there and you want to do it and everybody's committed to it, okay, I might disagree, but I'm willing to see it out because I think the process is cool. Same thing goes at 33. I think the question's a little bit different, right? At 2, you're committing for that player's until it's obvious. You're giving that dude 70 snaps, right? 70 starts
off top
before you give up on him, right? Like, because you took him at 2. That's what they're gonna have to do with Cam Ward. They're gonna have to give him 70, 80 starts. Like Jameis Winston got 6 years before people were like, all right, man, let's not do this anymore. Right?
Baker was roughly around 66, 60 some starts before
and that was because the reason that was a shorter leash was because the team that drafted him wasn't the same team that released him.
Yeah, right.
We're trading
different regime. Yep.
So it's if you draft him and you stay, like you're gonna give that 70, maybe even 90 starts. Like we're talking about the whole rookie contract plus the 5th-year option.
This needs to be said because I think you brought up a really good point. Is that like, look, man, there's times where I would be like, look, you probably need a quarterback, and there's a debate whether or not that guy is good enough to take at a certain slot. But I've always said, look, if the Cleveland Browns come to me and say, after they draft the quarterback and say, look, this was our guy, we felt like this was the dude we needed, he fit what we were trying to do, and it may not fit for everybody else, but this was the guy, I may not agree with you. But I'll just have to, I'll stand here and say, okay, well, you better make it work. That's on y'all. Y'all now your jobs is involved with it because you're making that evaluation. And I'm fine with that. I think to a certain extent, Kevin Stefanski deserves to get a chance to pick a quarterback. Andrew Berry gets a chance to deserve it. But I do think there's a difference between people saying, oh, you should take a quarterback and whether or not we think it's a good move, depending on whether or not they feel that it's the right move at the right time. And if they say that, I think both people on both sides of the aisle would probably say, all right, well, if you putting your careers on it, so be it. Hopefully it works.
Yeah. If they decide this is what they want to do, they're willing to commit to it. We're going to all have to give it a chance. We ain't going to have no choice.
Yeah, right. We'll be mad for a little bit.
Yeah, it's like, all right. Like, if they decided they want to take Jackson Dart too, I'm not going to be in the belief that that's going to work, right?
And I'm not going to amp them up.
I'm not going to sugarcoat it like I think it's going to work. But if they think it's going to work, okay, well, my job as somebody who talks about this is to figure out what is the plan. Mm-hmm. Are they following that plan? And does it look like he can execute that plan, right? If those things look like they're going to go, okay, then, maybe they had a better plan for this than I thought was possible for somebody like him. I always go back to Siaki Ika. Was I a fan of Siaki Ika coming out of Baylor? No, not even close to a fan of Siaki Ika coming out of Baylor. Browns picked him. I did not think that was a good selection. But I was like, okay, what's the plan, right? And once I realized there was no plan with him, that's when I was like, this is a horrific pick, right? This is going to be doomed to fail because it's not a great prospect, in my opinion, and there's no plan for that guy to succeed. And drafting players is twofold, right? It's evaluating talent and traits. That's important, but you can't get by on that alone. And it's also figuring out, what does this guy need to be successul on and off the field? And if you can't put that together, then you're in trouble. Go ahead.
I think we at the time, I think we did a podcast, and I think you were, I don't know, maybe because all this jumbles together. I think you were talking about his spark score, his athletics, and he's just like, listen, look up and down the offense, look up and down the defensive line. Which one of these guys does not fit? And his scores was just like, he had the Majin Buu scores. It was like he was not. I was like, yeah, it got a lot of Danny Shelton.
It was a bizarre choice, right?
It got a lot of Danny Shelton in that. Yeah, it didn't make much sense, bro. Like, so yeah, I get you. There's a lot of things that go into it. And I asked you beforehand, I said, now look, I think the ship has moved on the number 2 conversation because at worst, if you're a Travis Hunter guy or you're an Abdul Carter Hunter or Abdul, that's
Abdul Hunter.
Abdul Hunter is
we can all get behind.
Abdul Hunter, 6'5", play receiver and DN and play corner. Boy, Abdul Hunter is a monster.
Number 1 pick in the draft.
Number 1 pick years in a row. if you get either one of these dudes, like you may be in one camp a little more than the other camp, but you ain't gonna sit there and just start crying draft night. You're like, okay, cool, I can see some things, especially if JOK want to come back and you're Mike Hall Jr. I can see where you kind of got, so if you squint real, you look a little, you're like, man, this is one of the fastest defenses in the world right now. But I think we all understand that. I think the cruxes in the nexus of what we're trying to do, and I don't even think cruxes is a word, but I just said it. You got used to me back on the channel. Is the fact that what are we doing at 33? That pick to me is so intriguing because there's Pittsburgh there at 21 who needs a quarterback. There's Baltimore laying around, looking just to be like, yeah, we're Baltimore. We always get a good guy at pick 32. There's a lot of teams that, like the Giants, that could want to move back into that realm if a guy falls. And the running back class is so good that it could almost force you a little bit to just stay chilly a little bit and post up and say, well, listen, if I don't got the exact quarterback that fell to me, let me go get one of these backs. How do you see it playing out? And do you think, because I haven't talked to you, do you think that it's definitely quarterback at 33 or move back into the first round?
I think realistically it's going to feel like it might be that way, but I don't think it is definitely quarterback at number 33. Like if Omarion Hampton is there at 33, I think the Browns take him. If Jihad Campbell is there at 33, I think the Browns take him. If Shamar Stewart is there at 33, I think the Browns take him. Michael Williams, Kelvin Banks, right? Like these guys who they probably had first round grades are under their age threshold and above their RAS threshold. Those guys make a ton of sense there for them at 33 to where they can say, okay, well, maybe we get creative about moving up from 67 to go land Milroe somewhere in the 50s or something like that, right? Because it just, the value there at 33, again, this is a similar proposition at 2. I don't mind taking a quarterback, but if there's somebody there that you feel like can be an all-pro or Pro Bowl position player, fill a need for you long-term, that's going to take priority because the quarterbacks in this class just aren't that safe of a, well, not even I want to say safe of a bet, just aren't that sure of a thing to hit, right? Like, it's going to take a lot of work to get anything out of any of these quarterbacks in this class, and we'll see what it turns into. But if somebody like you think Kelvin Banks or Omarion Hampton or somebody like can be all pro or Pro Bowl level player, then you take them at 33. So I don't think it's guaranteed to go quarterback, but I think the reality is a lot of those guys are going to go in the first round. And that's going to leave the Browns with like Josh Connerly and like maybe if you're lucky, Grace Abel sitting there. And if it's that or Jayden Milroe, then I think they take the chance at Jayden Milroe.
And now,
or Shedeur is there, right? You know.
Now, do you have a preference? Now, look, some people have said, this is why draft conversations are good because you find out what people value, right?
Yeah.
Some people value that Shedeur has a floor that is a little higher than some people. They're like, listen, he's not going to be trash, but is he going to be a dude that's running around throwing for 4,000 or 5,000 yards and being an all-pro? We don't think so. The one thing they use against Shedeur is what's his elite trait. If I want to draft somebody in the first round, I want an elite trait. I want the arm string to be the elite. I want the size or the physicals or the processing to be elite. Now, if you don't have that, like that's cool if you good all around. But when the first round, I want one of them dudes. So people have been looking at Jayden Milroe, and they're like, listen, there's one thing that is elite, and you can't teach none of it. If it's between taking him and Tyler Shook or Jackson Dart, I know for a fact that he can do that. I know, like, if push comes to shove, if I can work with him. Now, listen, people talk about this. I happen to think people be trying to gas you up. I hate his mechanics. I don't like him. I listen, trust me. I watched the entire game against Wisconsin. I watched a lot of his games, and I'm like, man, his intermediate passing game is going to need a bunch of work. But however, I can see where somebody gets intoxicated with that 4-3 and in a division with Lamar Jackson say, listen, I want one of those toys too. where you can squint and say, if I'm going to take one at the end of the first round, I'm going to take the one with the highest upside. Give me Jayden Milroe over Shedeur or Jackson Dart. Where do you got these dudes? And what is your evaluation on which one you would take higher based on your principles at how you would deliver and how you would take a guy?
Yeah, so I'm a bit higher on Milroe than I think most people are, for a number of reasons. I tend to look at the floor conversation differently, right? I think we tend to think, okay, the quarterbacks who look like what we see on Sunday, those guys have the high floor, right? I think that's how we kind of are used to doing it. So like a Will Howard, his floor is higher than a Jayden Milroe, at least somebody would think. I tend to ask the question, how well does that skill translate to the NFL? We have seen it with pocket passers or guys who are going to have to win in the pocket more, that's a longer transition in the NFL and that the floor can be much lower than you think. Nobody expected Bryce Young to look as bad as Bryce Young did coming out of college, given that he was the pro-ready guy coming out of Alabama, but he looked pretty bad his first couple of years. Josh Rosen is another example of this. I mean, you can go through and just look. Sam Darnold was supposed to be more pro-ready, right? He didn't look good before Lamar Jackson and
Zach Wilson.
Josh Allen. Yeah, Zach Wilson, I will say he's more or less on the line of a wild card, right? Because he was such a gunslinger at BYU. But like, you can go down the line of them. Daniel Jones is another one who was supposed to be pro-ready. And you can see that these guys' floors are always much lower than people anticipate. Mac Jones, his floor just went through hell. When we look at these guys and we say, oh, well, they look like what we've seen Tom Brady do and all this stuff and the pocket passer stuff, we think they have a low floor. I tend to think this. What is going to make you useful in the NFL game for a quarterback? I think Jayden Milroe's athletic ability, it's obvious to see how that's going to be useful in the NFL game. That dude can run away from guys at an NFL level, right? Mm-hmm. That is transferable. And he's a much better runner than somebody like an Anthony Richardson. Anthony Richardson ran like a big dude who plays quarterback, right?
Yeah.
Jayden Milroe, sets up blocks, knows how to maneuver in space, moves in space really well, avoids contact straight on. He knows how to run. He's a good runner.
He looks like a running back.
Yeah, and I don't think that's a discredit to his game, but it's that's a credit to the skill that he has with the ball in his hands, is that he's that solid there. So I tend to think that his floor is a lot higher than what people think. The question is, how likely is he to access his ceiling, right? Or get close to his ceiling, which I tend to think is closer to Colin Kaepernick than a Lamar Jackson, because I think the skill sets are more in line with a Cap, where he's just never going to be a natural thrower of the football in the way that Lamar turned into.
I agree with what you're saying, but I also agree with what you said earlier. To me, I think he's a better prospect than Anthony Richardson. And look where Anthony Richardson went. If you ask me, who would I trust? Anthony Richardson, who I saw being very inaccurate at Florida. There was times people thought, what the heck is he doing coming out? He is not ready. And he went where he went. I think Milroe is, to me, a better prospect.
If Milroe were 20 like Anthony Richardson was in college, I would agree with you too. But I think that's a big difference there. Milroe's 22. Anthony Richardson was 20 coming out. And also Milroe's not 6'5". Milroe's 6'1" and some change, right? So not the tallest guy in the world. So you have maybe, some old school guys have some worry about his ability to see over the middle of the pocket.
Was that a sneak diss? Some old school guys.
What? Are you one of them?
No. I'm not the old school guys, they ain't looking at you. If you 6'2",
I don't think about anybody enough to be sneak dissing anybody, man.
That was one of the that's an old Charlie Casserly sneak diss.
Oh. I was not thinking about no Charlie Cassidy at the time.
Back then, if you was not, bro, it about
Merrill Hodge,
man, about 15 years ago, if you was not coming out looking like one of them out of the Midwest or California blue blood, you had to be 6'3", 6'4".
No, 10 years ago, Tyler Shuck would have been a top 10 pick. right? Like that would have happened.
Done.
So yeah, and we weren't very good at drafting quarterbacks 10 years ago. We've gotten much better at selecting quarterbacks in the last decade than the previous. But yeah, I think that's also something there with Milroe. And I think we've gotten to see a lot more of Milroe on a national stage than Anthony Richardson. So more people have opinions about it, right? And more people have like their concerns have been expressed about Jaylen, right?
Yes.
Over his last 2 years at Alabama. I think also he's the guy who's the transition guy between the Saban era and what they're in now. So he kind of got negatively hit like from that. I wonder, like, how do we view Jaylen Milroe if he does what he does at Arkansas versus Alabama, right? Like, because he's at Alabama, it's not impressive that he wins the SEC championship and gets to the national championship game his sophomore year last year, right? It's not impressive what he did against Georgia on the same scale because he's at Alabama. You're supposed to beat Georgia. Like, he has destroyed LSU every time he's played them. If that was something that Cam Ward did in Miami, we would be all over it, right? Or even if Shedeur did that shit at Colorado, we'd be all over it. But here, you don't hear about the fact that he had 450 yards passing total against his 2 games against LSU and like 8 rushing touchdowns for 400 yards in 2 games.
He was giving them that work.
Giving them the blues, right? He gave Georgia the blues.
I was going to say that.
Blues. And I think there's another question, right? I tend to think of football as 2 parts, right? There's the scientific part of it, the part where the numbers really matter, the study of the game, all of that. And then there's the art of it, right? Football is not a science. Football is not an art in itself. Sports are beautiful because they're a combination of these 2 worlds. And the art of it is where I'm like, Jaylen has showed up in big games, right? We've seen Jaylen show up in big games. We've seen Jaylen play the best competition in college football and look like one of the best players in college football. At times, nothing that the best teams could do with him.
He's looked unstoppable. He's looked unstoppable in the best conference at some point.
A game breaker, right? Like there have been times where you're like, he's a game breaker. There's nothing you could do with him, right? Like this, he's a dude, right? The football equivalent of putting up 50. Like, can't do shit with him. like, just hope you tackle him. That is not a trait that we have seen from any other quarterback in this class. Where you have not watched Cam Ward and been like, "Oh man, there's nothing Duke can do with him," right? Like, and even if it was, it's Duke. He almost lost.
He gave him to
Duke. He dirty. I went and watched him at Georgia Tech. I didn't get the feeling when I watched him against Georgia Tech. I'm like, "Oh man, he's about to take over."
I was gonna bring up the Cal game. He did come back in that game, but the fact was, he was looking bad in the Cal game.
Yeah, there's a lot, like even with Shedeur, right? When he went up against those elite competition in college football, like
USC,
Oregon. UCLA, Oregon, the blue blood schools, they don't look that great, right? Like it's look a lot different. You see him get sacked a lot more. He's making worse decisions. Jaylen's the only quarterback in this class consistently that you've seen go up against these big names and show something. I know Jackson Dart beat Georgia this year, but you weren't watching Ole Miss beat Georgia and saying, goodness gracious, Jackson Dart's tearing them apart, like the way that you were saying with Jaylen Milroe. And that is the one trait about him that I think is unique to this class, where you could look back and say, hey, how did we not see this coming? He was such a game breaker, and I think it's because we've been so inundated with just how bad it can look at times with Jaylen Milroe. And to be fair, the bad looks so bad with Jaylen Milroe at times that it can just turn you off of him entirely. But you have to work through that because there is something there.
And listen, I will give credit. I'll give a little bit of pushback. Now I will say, you are correct. I hadn't thought of it in that mindset of like, okay, who's at the time against the highest levels of competition looked dominant, and
Will Howard deserves credit. He's also in that part. He's done that.
Now Will Howard, I will say this is the lightning rod of all. I don't know if you've gotten this here, but Will Howard is a lightning rod if you dare touch it. Will Howard, for some people, they want Will Howard in the first round with a straight face. There's some people that's like, Will Howard is a 6th-round pick. The only reason you talk about Will Howard is because he went to the Buckeyes. And that's it. Y'all just want the Buckeyes to play for the Browns. That's not a minor league school. And then there's some people that are in the middle that's like, look, I'm not gonna lie. Will Howard had one of the best runs we've seen in a long time. And he was playing big time ball players. Like they destroyed Tennessee, got them up out of there. They got Oregon out of there. Dan Lanning talked about, man, I wake up with sweats every night because of that game. Then you got Texas up out of there, and the Quinn Ewers was supposed to be the guy a year ago. You got him up out of here, and then you beat Notre Dame. I mean, those are very, very good schools.
You know what? Will Howard is the first of in the NBA not the NBA, the NFL that we have actually seen in the NCAA for college basketball quite a bit. But he's the first guy to get this. He's the tournament dude. Right? Like every year in the draft, there's the dude that has the hot tournament. Right? The Jimmer for that, right? Like that's
Steph Curry.
Steph Curry had the hot tournament, right? Like there every year there's one of those dudes. I remember Malik Monk. I wanted to draft Malik Monk so bad because he was a good tournament
Antonio
dude.
Gates was so good in the tournament, they just had to draft him in football. They said Antonio Gates is unstoppable. We can't do nothing with him. They went to the Elite Eight to get that man a contract.
This is why I find Will Howard to be fascinating, right? Because he is the first dude who's going to benefit from the extended, because like the playoff used to only be 2 games, right?
Yeah, right.
Not enough there, and not enough variance into who you could play, who's going to make it, because Ohio State wouldn't have made the tournament if this were the regular, the old format. The expanded format's the only reason he made it in, because they were the 5th team or 6th team in the country, or something like that.
They lost to Michigan, didn't even go to the Big Ten championship game. It was nasty work. But I will say this, I love that format. That format is the best thing that we got in the sports right now.
The more they expand it, the more this phenomenon's gonna come out, and we got to decide how we feel about this phenomenon, because tournament dude, Shabazz Napier, right? Remember that? Like it could be right. Shabazz Napier. Like, you know,
and we had one. We got us one. Miami took him immediately. LeBron was like, "Give me Shabazz Napier. He's unstoppable."
I forget, there was a dude. I think he was from Ohio, right? He played at Miami.
Oh, you talk about what's the name? He actually played for the Wally Zerbiak.
No. This is like 2013. Right.
See, I went way back in the time.
And it was a brother. Yeah, it was a brother. I forget what his name was, but somebody in chat gonna remind me. But
Van Horn was one of them dudes too.
The tournament dude can be overdrafted. The tournament dude could be underdrafted, right? It's not really like you don't know what to do. It's not like there's a stigma against drafting the tournament dude, but there might be a stigma against overvaluing the tournament dude. That's what Will Howard is, right? He's Jimmer for that. He is what's a good example? Because I don't want to just make it seem like I'm just calling him
I'm gonna give him one. Shout out to the dude. He's from Kansas. CJ McCollum. CJ McCollum and Lehigh beats
Lehigh,
dude.
Yeah.
And he's a lottery pick. And people who was from the city was like, is CJ McCollum a lottery pick? We had to second guess ourselves. We were like, I know he killed Duke, but a lottery pick from Lehigh, and he turned out it worked. I mean, he was a most improved player, made an all-star team. I don't know if he made an all-star team, but he was averaging 22, 23 points a game out in Portland. So there are some examples of guys who really did do what they were supposed to do and did their thing.
Yeah. So I don't know what to make of how well he played in the tournament. In the tournament, I can only judge what he did and evaluate that. The big question with Will is, what's that arm strength looking like, right? Like, I think he has a backup quarterback floor and maybe like an Andy Dalton-like ceiling on him.
Okay.
Like, where he could be, you know, just below a Pro Bowl level starter, right? But maybe somebody like a Matt Schwab. Remember Matt Schwab? Matt Schwab wasn't setting the world on fire, but Matt Schwab held it down for like 4 or 5 years. Right. And maybe that could be what Will Howard is in the NFL if his arm talent is enough to get by. The question I have with him is, boy, he had Jeremiah Smith working on that backside.
Yeah,
right?
boy.
And I think the issue with him isn't going to be the distance he can push the ball. It's going to be the velocity and the accuracy he could throw with velocity. Because I think he throws without velocity in college because he can be accurate that way. But I think if he throws with velocity, which he's capable of, does the accuracy start to dip? And does that start to make it not make sense with him? I don't mind him with the 90th to 4th round. Like, if you don't take a quarterback already, then I think taking Will Howard as your experimental third guy is a fine choice. But yeah, anywhere above that, then I think you might be caught in that overvaluing the tournament thing, which is hard. Like, I don't know. We might look at this in 5 years and say, hey, if the dude has a hot tournament, we need to take him.
Right.
Like, that might be what the meta is, right?
Because especially if they're from a smaller school and you saying, we don't get a chance to see this guy in South Dakota State play nobody, but they made the tournament and they played 3 to 4 teams and he was cooking.
Yeah, somebody's going to go all in on the tournament guy, right? And it's going to be a more egregious example than the guy at Ohio State playing with the best roster college football has ever assembled, right? Like,
you need to throw that out there. You need to put that out there.
Like, it's really a factor with him. But like some guy from like Boise State or New Mexico or UTEP or something like that is going to have this run, and then somebody's going to decide to go all in on that, and depending on whether that team gets burnt or not on that choice is going to determine how we feel about tournament guys, because we just don't, this is new, and we forget that how college football drastically changes how we view the draft, and this is a huge dynamic they have just introduced into college football. And I think Will Howard's the first one, because where would Will Howard be if there was a 14 playoff? He'd be in the 6th, 7th round. Right? Like,
talk about undrafted. And there's some people who will say it. I mean, Will Howard, I heard him say there are certain things he didn't even know about the quarterback position until he got to Ohio State. Like, in terms of throwing and routes and mechanics, he's like, yeah, like I didn't know any. I had 1 year in a regular throwing offense where we could throw the ball regularly on 3rd down. I was at Kansas State, no disrespect, but they had him out there running around like Tim Tebow. All I saw from him was runs.
Well, you got to remember, that's Chris Kleiman out there at Kansas State, who is the former North Dakota State head coach. And also, like, Trey Lance, right, came out that North Dakota State offense, and had similar issues transitioning to the NFL. Like, what they do over there is so run dominant, so trench oriented, that it's a different axe when you go to a Chip Kelly system. So it might have been, like, again, this is the big question with Will. Might have just been it clicked, you know? But I think Will Howard and Jayden Milroe are two fascinating prospects, because with Will Howard, you're like, okay, well, when did it finally click with him? With Jayden Milroe, I wonder, like, he only had 1 year in that offense. And he's only had 1 year in every offense he's ever been in. Like, what if he got to put it together and got 2 seasons behind one offense? There's like some of this stuff where it looks like he's thinking through stuff. Change.
And listen, it's I'm here to tell you, it's devastating when it click in the pros.
Yeah,
because when it click in the pros, it just seemed like you get an extra little boost. Like, it just seemed like you're him. Then I'm like, bro, like, you just wake up and it's like, man, he wasn't even that good last year. Like,
yeah, because like Will Howard had the benefit of being in the best situation in college football. Right, you got dudes who are going to be top picks all up and down everywhere. That offense and defense, right?
Everywhere.
You got Donovan Jackson there, right? You had Josh Simmons there. You got the greatest wide receiver core you will ever play with.
Right now.
So you played and you got benefited from. I think of all the blue blood schools that were in serious contention for a national championship, you could look at Alabama and go, boy, that wasn't the situation it usually is at Alabama. The offensive line wasn't very good there. They only had, like, Tyler Booker's going to go pro, but because he's a good run blocker, not necessarily for his pass blocking, and I understand why that is the case. Like Jeremy Bernard.
Yeah, right. I think in the trenches,
Ryan Williams.
Right? They got Ryan Williams, but in the trenches, Or when you
It
look
was
at the
different.
running backs, it wasn't the same level of what you expect from Alabama.
Like, think about it like this, G. That kid's 17 years old and he played at Alabama. That happened 4 years ago.
I mean,
Like, I understand the kid is cold.
You mean the 4 years where they was running out Jerry Judy and running out
yes.
all of them when old boy when they who went to jail for the Raiders that was running a 4-9.
Henry Ruggs?
They had Ruggs, they had Mechie. They got
what's the dude that played in Detroit now? He was at Ohio State for a year.
Williams.
Jameson Williams.
Jameson.
Well, no.
When they had all of them back to back. No.
This is what I'm saying. That's where Ohio State is now, right? They are where Alabama was 3-4 years ago, or where these elite college football teams. You look at Alabama, it's like, well, they got Jeremy Bernard and they got a 17-year-old playing. And no disrespect to those two.
But they did have Isaiah Bond, though. They lost.
But he left.
And he
left. And even Isaiah Bond is like a 4th-round pick. Yeah. So, like, that's not the Alabama we used to thinking about when we see Alabama come out the tunnel, right? And I think, for me, that's been the adjustment period. Watching Jayden Milroe's tape is like, boy, this ain't the Alabama I grew up with.
Let me ask you, this is a dumb question. This is a hypothetical dumb question, but hey, it might spawn it. If Shedeur Sanders played for Ohio State last year, would they win a national championship?
Last year when they had Kyle McCord?
No. This year when they had.
This last year.
Last year.
Well, that's hard to say.
Because
what
I'm getting at is, there are a difference of like, so people will say now unequivocally, Colorado does not have anything in the trenches compared to none of them schools. Ohio State, Texas, even Miami. They're not on the same level.
No, Miami was good on the offensive line last year.
Listen, that Royal tight end, I like him. You remind me of Jimmy Graham. I want him. But by the way, that's a whole nother thing. But they don't got. But what Colorado did have is they did have Shedeur Sanders, they did have Travis Hunter, and they had Jimmy Horn. And those three are pretty good. Especially when you out west playing, Colorado and Colorado State and those guys like that. No disrespect to that competition. So my thing is, how do you gauge? Because those three guys I can play for a lot of people all over the country. Mm-hmm. My thing is, how much did they raise the level of Colorado by just three guys? And do they get credit for that? Rather than getting taken down a little bit because they say they don't play the level of competition that some of the other teams play.
Yeah, it's the reason it's hard to make a transit, like a thought like that is, it's not that I don't think Shedeur is not better than Will Howard. I do think he's a better prospect than Will Howard by a margin. Right. It's like, does Shedeur's problems create more problems for Ohio State than necessary for what the reward's going to be, which you can reach with a very low input at Ohio State at the quarterback position, right? Like, for example, when they had to play Penn State, Abdul Carter was a problem for them, right? How much more of a problem is he going to be if they have a quarterback who's not 6'5", 230, can withstand a couple of those sacks, but somebody who's going to roll out the pocket and make Abdul's life a little bit easier, right? Like, that's the thing with Shedeur that I have the question about is, does he always make his teammates better? I think he makes his wide receivers better. I don't know if he makes his offensive line better. I think he tends to make his offensive line a lot worse. So does that trade-off, right? Like, do you need a quarterback who's going to make your offensive line look worse to make your wide receivers look better at Ohio State? Like, does that make you a better team? Or does that kind of keep you where you were always going to be with wide receivers, but lower where you are with the offensive line and make you a little bit worse just because Shedeur's taking too many sacks? Right. Like, I think that's a factor in there. And he would have to have figured it out. Also, to fit with like a Chip Kelly system
or the running game,
is a difficult one.
Would you run the ball a lot?
Would you run the ball as much?
Lot more. Like
when you got Shedeur there, and you think that you got to do the quarterback. Like, sometimes, and we've seen this even with like Deshaun before he hurt the shoulder. it benefited the Browns at times to just not have him on the field, not because he wasn't more talented than PJ Walker or more capable at that point than what maybe even Joe Flacco, like before he had the shoulder surgery. It was that the Browns always wanted to use Deshaun like he was 2020 Deshaun, right? A better example of this is Ben Roethlisberger. This is a point that I made to Steeler fans at the time, and I was right about it. The issue with Ben is like everybody's gonna be like, well, Ben's old. Let's just use him like a different kind of quarterback and limit his target, limit his pass attempts, and keep him low and this and that, and we should be good. But the problem is that's Big Ben. Yeah, so what are you gonna do when you got Big Ben? Right? Big Ben ain't gonna throw the ball 20 times a game. Big Ben gonna throw that bitch 40 times a game until he retires because he's Big Ben. Same thing with Aaron Rodgers. This is why aging quarterbacks don't tend to have that long of a fall off period before they gotta go.
Because people move them, like people literally, like it's almost funny because it's almost like I just think that you keep mentioning them. See, these blogs we be having be 35, 45,000 minutes because there's always little nuggets to pull and strings to pick. Like, I think that's half the reason why Aaron Rodgers, I know you be doing your AFC North type joint, and it's the reason why they ain't signed no deals yet. It's because it's like he knows, like it's almost like you guys both know that this is a disconnect. You know before you sign it. That's why there's some reluctance. Just why everybody else then moved and signed, because Aaron Rodgers is like, I'm going to play the way Aaron Rodgers play. And you got DK Metcalf now. You might as well stop all that ball control run game. I'm not getting in field goal position. Pickens is open. I see him. I'm throwing like that. And Mike Tomlin is like, that's not what we be doing, bro. That's not, that expect maybe if it was a 10-year ago Aaron Rodgers, we talk about the Aaron Rodgers today. We not trying to have, and I think there's a disconnect because you're right. Like what you are and what you imagine yourself to be is two different things. And the perception is the difference between you signing the deal and getting it done. And them like, well, maybe we might want to move along and get us a quarterback in this draft.
It's like there's a disconnect between what people outside the athlete's orbit thinks that athlete is capable of and what people inside that orbit think that athlete is capable of. And that disconnect is kind of necessary, right? Because it's a crazy thing to think that you could play football at this level at that age, right?
Forever.
Like that's a crazy thing to do. Like every time people get like insight to how athletes be thinking about themselves, if you ask an athlete who you think they were better than, you always gonna get an answer that you feel like is kind of delusional, but it takes that level of confidence to be able to make it in the NFL. So assuming that Aaron Rodgers is going to be like, no, I'm cooked. I need to play like I'm cooked. That's not how that man is operating at all. That man is operating under the assumption that this is just another year for me. I'm about to show the world that I'm still Aaron Rodgers, right? That's how it's going to go down. So if he plays, he's going to want to be Aaron Rodgers and be treated like Aaron Rodgers. So that brings us back to the Shedeur conversation, which is like, I don't know if having a better quarterback would have benefited Ohio State, but he is a better quarterback than Will Howard, at least in college. The problem is, did you need a better quarterback at Ohio State? Like, like some situations, just you didn't need that shit. You needed somebody who was going to play point guard. And Will Howard's a better point guard than Shedeur Sanders is, because Shedeur one of them dudes who can give you 8 assists, but he really there to try to give you 20, right? Like that's what he's there for.
As we put a bow in this thing, man, is there a scenario where you say, this is perfect scenario, Quincy's coming on and with the meme, with the Quincy face, like, wow, the shaven Quincy face with the red eye Andrew Berry, and you said, oh my goodness, the Cleveland Browns for the first time. I'm giving them a complete A+ grand slam home run. I'm doing backflips. I'm going to get another cat. What you doing? What has to happen if they come away with X, Y, and Z, or players' names that you would say this slam dunk?
There can be drafts I feel really good about. To feel that good, I'm not gonna feel that good until the season start, right? Until we see it.
So you pumping your brakes?
No,
you are pumping them.
I say this all the time. The draft grades that mean the least are the ones that you put out after the draft, right? They're the most viewed draft grades you have, but they mean nothing because shit changes, right? Like, here's what I will say: Andrew Berry smacked the draft, and deserves to get a 30-year extension after this year, right? If you come out this draft and Travis Hunter and Jayden Milroe have ignited that offense, or Travis Hunter and Shedeur Sanders, like if you get quarterback and you get a playmaker and number 2 works out, all right, man, like I ain't got nothing to say. Like, yeah, I'm not about to sit here and wait and see if the 3rd round pick changes shit. Like, nah, you got it. Like, you got the
okay, I like that.
Like,
I like that.
Hey, look, everybody gives John Dorsey credit. Why? He got, 2018, it was Baker,
Chubb.
Denzel Ward, Nick Chubb, and people give him credit for Denzel Ward, Nick Chubb for the most part, right? And you got those two, we ain't really got shit to say to him, right? I don't care that you took, who else he took in that draft? He took some, Antonio Callaway. We don't give him nothing for that. Why? Because it's like, it don't matter. You got 2 all-pro players on the team in 2018. I'm good. If that's something that Andrew Berry can do, if you can get 2 all-pro players, and if you can get them both on offense, because God knows we need it, then and I ain't got shit to say to you no more, dog. Like, yeah, you get the benefit of the doubt, the laser eye emojis, all of that shit. Like, yeah, I'm cool. Like, you know what I mean? But
that's it.
Yeah,
that's it.
That's it. Like,
we ain't looking at the 4th, 5th. Y'all doing too much out there.
To move off of that because he missed on the 4th round pick or something. Like, I don't give a damn.
You doing too much. People, I heard people, he got to hit on that. He got to get a quarterback. He got to get Chubb's replacement. He need another tight end. And I'm like, whoa. You need to stop. If he hit on the quarterback and in 2 years, the quarterback is the quarterback and we are in the place we were 2 years ago where we knew who our quarterback was, then we can't say nothing. Travis Hunter looked like the dude. It's up to Stefanski to put him in a position to where he is going to be Travis Hunter to do. But if he does those 2 things, I can't say nothing to him. Go ahead and get you a new little condo.
Getting 1,200, 3 interceptions a year, and then we got a quarterback, and we still got to pay Deshaun Watson off, but we ain't really caring about that shit no more. They ain't got nothing to say. Hey, you did it.
They did that.
You kept Miles. You got him.
And why does it?
Here's the extension.
Why don't people give him? Why don't they give Andrew Berry credit for that? Like Myles Garrett was like, "Nah, I'm done. I don't want to play no more." And not only did he keep him, he got him back in the fold, and basically said, "Oh, you're going to retire Cleveland Brown." Like he gets no credit for that. Like it's like, "Oh, that was they should have never got to that to start with." I say, bro, I don't know what y'all people want. I don't know. Listen, but I will say this. I think the Cleveland Browns got a new PR staff. They got them. Somebody came, Olivia Pope and Associates came up, and when they're the new fixers because Olivia Pope is in there fixing stuff. Like, listen, they come out and say the Deshaun Watson trade was a disaster and it's on us. Blame us. Don't worry about the coaches. They then come out too and say we're not going to force a quarterback either, so don't even try that. We gonna be patient. They're like, what the heck? The Browns is out here cooking. Then on top of that, Myles Garrett wants to leave. They said, no, we're going to flip that. You're going to come on back and we're going to give you a contract. Then they were like, look, we can send money for Kirk Cousins. We can do all that. Why don't we just give them the base, the red meat that they want? We're going to give y'all. We're going to give you Joe Flacco. Now, Flacco he wasn't even good last year. They don't care nothing about that, but he was good when the last time we remember him. They gave you Joe Flacco. They went and got Kenny Pickett. They didn't do no more preaching in the quarterback room. And then they said, all right, well, listen, we can go ahead and bring this on. We'll get Travis Hunter or somebody of that ilk. It'll be a player that people are excited to watch. And then we'll still get another quarterback. And in one failed swoop off-season Q, Cleveland Browns brought 65% of their fan base back into the fold because it was nasty work at the end of the year.
I'm going to be honest with you, G. Didn't even take all that. All it took was, hey, man, we not playing the shot no more. Okay, we back.
That's all it took.
It just happened sooner because they were more proactive about it.
Right.
But the sooner people were like, "Oh, he not gonna play no more."
All back.
Okay, yeah, we good.
Let me go get my jerseys. Let me dig my jerseys.
We good.
That's wild.
You could put anybody back there, and they'd be like, "Oh yeah, we ready for the new era." Like, because people just want to move on from the whole Watson thing, right? Because it's connected to the weirdness with the Baker Mayfield thing, and it's all this discomfort about it. But yeah, I think also the thing with Travis that I find to be interested with him is I have never met somebody at the top of this draft board that feels like one of them kids that's Kevin and Andrew love bringing in, right? Like he was on Sports Illustrated, and it was like, what do you do all day?
Like just where
I work on football and I fish. Welcome to Cleveland.
Like that. Look, he's smart. He don't do nothing. He's an academic All-American. Mm-hmm. He wants to work hard. He's in great condition. He's fishing. He's strange. He's slightly strange in the way he talks.
Somebody need to introduce that man to Willoughby, Ohio, because he gonna love it.
He's gonna love.
He seemed. I was watching. I'm like, oh yeah. I remember one of my mom's homegirls. She was a teacher at Shaw, and she lived out there in Willoughby with her husband. And I remember it was the first time I ever went at somebody's house in the backyard, and they had a crick in it. I was like, oh, y'all got a crick? Like it's crazy.
But like creeks, like creek, like it. It goes. It's like Lake River.
I remember the homie, my homie Avery, one day went in the creek, brought out a turtle. I was like, what?
They got animals in the creek.
What's going on here? I'm like, Travis Hunter, sir, you would love Willoughby. Somebody get him in contact with Kareem Hutton immediately so he can know where all the spots are, because I could see him on one of them little bridges fishing, right? Because like that. He's like that secluded country kind of area. I'm like, you can get that in Cleveland. Don't let them tell you got to go to the west side to get that. Nah.
And I will tell you this. I will say this for what is expected. The Browns for all of the Perrion Winfreys and Malik McDowell's and all them joints.
You ain't got to worry about that young man being at Barley House.
And by the way, Jayden Milroe is the same way. If you take Jayden Milroe, great kid, military kid, don't do nothing. Listen, they could go a lot further places in a lot of other directions and come up with way less better character players than what they got right in front of them. So yeah, I think it's a slam dunk when it comes to it.
Here is my measure of like, okay, how serious are we about team culture? How jumping is the 9? Right? Because I remember in 2014 when Johnny was here, the 9 was jumping. Right?
We ain't recovered. Listen, I'm gonna tell you, I'm back in the city. They done retired all that Q. Listen, COVID happened, they done retired all that. Listen, you got to go back. Look, listen. Plus, you got Jared Allen and Donovan Mitchell. Them boys is playing Scrabbles on their off night.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. This is how you can tell what kind of culture we got going on with the local sports team. Is the 9 jumping or is it not? Right? Because in 2014, the 9 was jumping. I used to hear about all my homegirls going to the 9, right? Like everything. I'm like, okay. I guess
Gordon is out there
at the 9. Yeah, Johnny out there. It was Justin Gilbert throwing parties out there, right? Like Jabril Peppers was throwing birthday bashes and shit. Like it was going down at the 9. I have not heard of the 9 jumping, and that's my measure. I'm like, oh yeah. You draft Travis Hunter, he not living at the 9. He's going to Willoughby Heights.
On like right? Tuesday. Like when that song came, we got you. Is the club going up on a Tuesday? Got your girl. Listen, I was like, yo. I said, these dudes is really partying on Tuesday and Wednesday night. That's how y'all feeling, fellas? I see you.
It was crazy in 2014. But also, Jayden Milroe strikes me as somebody who will live as close to the facility as possible.
Oh no, he has a listen. I talked to Tyvus the other day. I watched the interview. Shout out to Tyvus, man. He was on here. See, that's what sparked it. They said, oh, he got Tyvus on? Tyvus, we ain't seen G. Bush. Tyvus, what's going on? They was like, that was sparked the rumors. But Tyvus was on here. I watch all the episodes anyway. But it's funny. I watch all of them. And Tyvus was telling me, he was like, oh, yeah, they got the teams got these apartments and places they be owning. Like they put up guys all the time. Like, you know what I'm saying? If you get traded like during the middle of the year or whatever, and I'm like, yeah, listen, Jayden Milroe is definitely living in some undisclosed Jimmy Haslam suite somewhere, like out the way. He's not doing all that.
Yeah, it's gonna be interesting just the change of what they look for, but maybe if we had the coach we had 10 years ago, maybe Shedeur would have made more sense with the team, because Shedeur does strike me as a living at the 9 guy. Now he do his work. You can do your work and live at the 9.
He's a tweener. I think
he gonna be at the 9. Like he gonna be at the club once or twice a year.
I think what you're gonna see Shedeur. Now Shedeur, he got to find a jeweler in Cleveland. I don't know if he can find a jeweler in Cleveland.
The Shedeur Sanders birthday bash flyer going
on. Which celebration is more recognizable? The money dance or the Rolly? Like, listen, by the way, the Rolly celebration is kind of fire.
DJ EV gonna be out there spinning the ones and twos at the Shedeur Sanders.
Get ready.
You think they're going to advertise the Shedeur Sanders birthday bash on the Z107.9?
Z107.9, Blazing Hip Hop and R&B. Shedeur Sanders,
ladies,
the Sanders family.
Do you want to get a 3?
Mirage at the water. Mirage at the water right now. We got Shedeur Sanders in the club, Shiloh Sanders in the club, and the Sanders that hold the camera that don't know about nobody. We got them all ready to go.
We got King Chip and DJ Step Floss.
We got Incognito.
I don't think he gonna know nothing about no DJ Step Floss.
Step Floss. Hey, Chip the Ripper is in the building.
It's gonna be Wallow and Gilly out there. But it's gonna be interesting to see what the Browns do. I think 2, we know what they're going to do at 2. It's more or less waiting to see what kind of quarterback options are going to be there for the Browns, especially once you get past pick 21. But thank you, G, for coming on, man. Anything else you want to say to the people before you head out?
Hey, man, listen, man, it's a new era, man. Get ready. I'm excited for the Cleveland Browns fans because, like you said, man, it's a new opportunity to get some fresh blood in here. It's always reinvigorating. Got an opportunity to get some of the best people in the draft. And listen, it's cool because I think after this draft, we can start getting back all on the same page where we can get behind people and whether it is the new quarterback or whatever we got, I think the vibes in Cleveland is changing a little bit. So I'm ready for an interesting season. I'm ready for an interesting draft and make sure y'all locked in because we're going to be bringing you this content all over the internet. You know what it is.
Hey, man, it ain't going to get darker than it was last year.
No. Anything, it's all up. Last year it was tough for me I couldn't do it. Listen,
because last year it took my Super Bowl hopes, right?
Yeah.
And it with the second pick of the draft. Look, no matter if the Browns get the second pick of the draft again next year, it's not going to be the same because we're not coming in thinking we about to win 12 games, right? Nah. So look, that's what you have to look forward to, Browns fans. The storm is over. We'll see if we can grow some crops after this. But I think there is, the closer and closer we get to the season, like in all seriousness, I think Browns fans are going to enjoy not really feeling that burden of this team has to be good this year. Not saying that they're not going to try to be good. They're obviously going to try to win as many games as possible. I think they're going to try to win 9-10 games. And I think that would be good for their program overall to do that. But it's not going to be that you're going to be allowed to be surprised by what this team does versus expect the world of them. And I think that puts you in a better place to enjoy the season. And it's like, hey, now you get to say, hey, look, Travis Hunter, he had a great season, right? Like that's going to legitimately make you feel better about the rest of the run here in Cleveland. So we'll see what happens. We'll see what we do. G, thank you for coming on. Make sure you check out G Bush. He's on Bleacher Report, the ultimate Cleveland sports show. YouTube, Twitter, anywhere that you could be on the internet talking about sports. My man's right there. Make sure y'all go check him out. But for G, I'm Q. Peace.